What's up? What's up? It's I Solomon reporting live with D Luna on another episode of Making Light of It. And we had been talking and a lot of things, dealing with the world, and we have a pretty much open aspect of communication, and we both have good vocabulary, so we're able to express ourselves. That's not saying that we usually do it like we're supposed to, but you know what I'm saying. For the most part, we try to talk about worldly events and talk about people and how to help people. And we had been noticing that a lot of our friends of all different spectrums across the board having have their own problems within their relationship, and we just wanted to speak on it. Not saying that we're trying to gauge your relationship per se, but we try to help because we go through the same things. We're not perfect, and we just keep that communication. um we keep it paramount. We keep it at the apex of our relationship, because at the end of the day, if we don't have the communication, we could be feeling things inside and just can't get it out. But that's what we wanted to highlight on, and we wanted to speak on that, and go back and forth, and maybe just probably open up a dialogue, if possible, between man and woman, because we see this, like I said, across the board. With our friends. Some of our friends are happy. Some of them are acting like they're happy. Some of them are openly miserable. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, we're not perfect. We want to put that out there. We deal with our own struggles, and we just make sure the communication is present.
Yeah, I agree. We've both been seeing a lot of this lately, within our own spectrums, within our own friends, our groups of friends, the circles, right? And we've also been seeing it together as a couple within
Right.
our friends that are, couples, right? Um, a lot of people are experiencing things, situations and aspects of relationships are being revealed right now, things that aren't working, right? Anything that's no longer working or no longer serving us is kind of being revealed right
Right.
now. And the way that I am witnessing, and the way that we're both witnessing it impacting relationships in particular, is very powerful. And I think that what we've been seeing the most is just a lack of communication, where, sometimes, for instance, if we have couple friends, some of our
Yeah.
groups of friends where there are couples, right? And he may be friends with the male, I may be friends with the female. A lot of the time, they're on the same page, but, don't know really how to voice
Mm-hmm.
or communicate what it is that's really bothering them in a healthy way,
Right.
right? In a way that doesn't berate or belittle or really hurt the other
Mm-hmm.
person, which I think is so often the thing that we deal with the most when we're dealing with emotional
Yes.
issues. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Where we can kind of bleed on the other person unintentionally,
Mm-hmm.
project our emotions and our feelings onto the other person unintentionally, which really just causes more damage
Yes, indeed.
than healing,
Yeah.
right? But it's that communication aspect that opens up that healing.
Yeah, it does. And dealing with certain kind of peoples, obviously D Luna is a special kind of woman, and she deals with a lot. A lot of people that don't know our history, and it was ugly. It was real ugly on my behalf, and I came in a damaged man, and I'm still somewhat damaged. But I realized, greatness, and a queen, and really someone who went the extra length just to prove to me that I was worth it. So, obviously a good person will want to, reciprocate that back. But it stands not just my jail terms, but just things in my past, in my childhood, that make me react a certain way to certain things, because I'm foreign to love. I don't know what love is. I know what surviving is. I don't know what living is. But I've survived for this amount of time. But now I'm more focused on living, and being present in the moment, and that's be it thanks to her and God. And I had some of the most profound encounters with God, because of this woman, because of something I did her and felt so badly about, that I had to call on forgiveness from the Father, and it led me to another spiritual journey, and for that I'm thankful. But fact as it may be, with people in the world, and people like me coming from incarceration, people that's not even coming from incarceration, that are just dealing with life, and the toils and the snares, is what makes us complicated as men. And it makes us complicated, for one. It makes us non-emotional, non-receptive, and aggressive, because we feel like, we're being overlooked, and we're trying to be good people, and we're trying to be open. But it's just as much important as it is for me to be open, is for Dina to be acceptance to my openness.
Right. A
So,
willingness to hold space for another person's
right.
evolution and growth and healing to really take place, because although he paints this perfect image of me, I'm far from perfect. I'm perfect in his eyes.
Yeah,
Hopefully
it's
I'm
my
perfect in
baby.
God's eyes, but I'm far from a perfect woman.
Mm.
I have been through an awful lot of trauma in my own life, childhood as well, like he
Right.
mentioned, but also in other relationships, you know what I mean? Like toxic relationships. And I wasn't always able to heal. Some wounds are so deep, and within him, he is my mirror. So I'm able to see deeply embedded wounds in myself that I wasn't always able to see. I wasn't
Right.
even aware that they were still affecting me in some aspects.
Same
You know
here,
what I
same
mean?
here.
And it's like we reveal to each other, we mirror to each other what is needed for our growth, what is
Right.
needed for our healing.
Mhm.
And if you can remove your own ego long enough to do some self-inventory and really like reflect on what the other person is saying, instead of just having your defenses up and being like, no way, I'm not like that. That's not me.
Listening
What
just
do
to
you, what do you
respond.
mean? Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where that communication aspect
Yeah.
comes in. You have to be willing to listen to your partner. You have to
Definitely.
be willing to take into consideration what they're saying without your defenses being so up and just, waiting to respond,
Right.
rather than being receptive to the information. And a lot of times that's what we see. And a lot of the times we're able to sort of play mediator or
Yeah.
middleman to a lot of our
Thank God.
friendships, a lot of our, the couples that we interact with. And I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the ways that we mirror each other.
Right.
I'm grateful for the ways, and I just, it really touched our hearts. We just been wanting to kind of speak on this a little bit, just the communication aspect and how important it is, and how oftentimes that's all it takes is a person being willing to be vulnerable and speak up and reveal their emotions and open a dialogue and really just kind of expose those wounds, because oftentimes you're going to share a lot of the same similar wounding, the similar patterns, the similar grief, even that even grievances amongst each other, or something that might bother you about the other person. It takes that willingness to communicate, that willingness to hold space for the other person in their evolution. Like, okay, they're trying to do better.
Right.
I'm not going to hold them accountable. I'm not going to beat them down as they're trying to evolve into something better. I'm going to hold space and love them through it, right? And that's a lot of times what we see, but what we're seeing kind of dying off in relationships.
it
The
is.
minute things get tough, people want to kind of wash their hands and just back up.
And only you know in your relationship whether if you've done you broke some cardinal rules that between you and your partner that is y'all are done. Only you know that.
Yeah.
But to have situations, this was frustrating for me, and I know it's frustrating for you too, to have couple friends and to be talking to them separately and in confidence, and realizing that when me and her speak together on the things, because we're still in confidence, but we'll fish around in each other and we kind of read each other's minds a lot. And to have it where I know the man is going through this and she's telling me the woman's going through this, and they're actually on the same page, but they refuse to communicate. They refuse to come to the table and put everything aside, even if it takes 10 minutes. Sometimes I'm not saying it will, because it's usually going to be in depth.
Yeah.
But just to actually open up their dialogue and remember it and to table it. And I know that's the hardest thing to do. We had to do that the other day, and we got into a dispute, and we had things that were going on in the family, birthday parties and whatnot, and we had to actually table these things, how we're feeling inside, for the betterment of the kids, and for them to enjoy themselves and us to come back to it. It's one thing to have a problem and to deal with it then, but to actually table it, have fun, smile, eat birthday cake, and come back to it again, that shows effort though.
Right.
And anything worth having is worth fighting for.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at, and it's just frustrating when we see so many different of the same problems. There's friends that we have that we know that we can give our opinion on, and we're not passing judgment, but we know the struggle, and we feel like those people would be better off separating.
Right.
And it would be, and God's going to take care of all of it, because I believe in the divine creator, as do you.
Right.
And it's going to take care of everything, but sometimes you have to let God move these people out of your way. You can't clutch to them, because clutching to them might be clutching to misery. So it's all on having a relationship with yourself first and foremost, because two less than whole people coming together does not create one whole person.
No.
It creates two people that they're still missing parts of themselves. So with me and D, we have our separate traumas and separate battles that we choose to fight together, separately as well as together, because we feel like we're stronger together. But it's been spoke on. Maybe we're better off to go apart and deal with ours. But I feel like we're stronger together, and so does she.
Right.
So we made the decision to make it work and to keep on. Because if you knew the history, I'm at fault in a lot of these things. I have to actually throw my hands up to God and say I'm sorry. Because to put this angel in my life and for me to do what I've done, and that'll come up because I'm not ashamed of my past because it makes me who I am right now. But you know, dealing with these things and just to know that you can humanize us, take us off the, you know, the pedestal of relationships. We're not relationship gurus.
No.
we're two regular people that's down to earth, that's been through a lot and that's conquered, you know, a nice little bit of things, but we're still conquering. And we're loving light, so we're trying to reach out our hands to others, friends, and foes alike, and saying, you know, come with us. You know, it's no longer about beating you down. And it's all love. It's all love and light.
And it's a willingness to, you know, really be able to grow separately.
Yeah.
Be able to grow separately, but in turn be able to grow together
Definitely.
as well. You have to, like I said, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you have to be able to hold space for another person's evolution.
Yes, ma'am.
It can't be, you know, you can't become stagnant. You can't become complacent. You can't just get comfortable in where you are, that you are allowing toxic behaviors on either side to take place. Sometimes things need to be worked out. And yeah, like you said, we've seen situations where, you know, some people are just so toxic together that it's just not, you know, not a very good thing for either party. But then we see so many beautiful relationships where it's like, gosh, we know if they would just be able to communicate a little bit on this end, oh man, the healing that could really take place. Yeah. And so that's really why we wanted to make this video, was just to encourage you guys. Be willing to be vulnerable. Be willing to share your emotions, your feelings, your pain, your grievances with the person that you love, with the person that you want to grow old with, that you want to grow beside. You know what I mean? And when you're able to do that, and you're able to come to that neutral ground, that place of, you know, no ego. Yeah, like just to be able to communicate and hash stuff out without it being like, you know, so toxic and bitter and it lets go of that resentment factor. It ceases that from because if you're sitting there and you're not speaking on something that bothers you, it just creates this bitterness, this resentment, and eventually that grows, you know, grows
to hate.
Right.
You know, and there's a thin line between love and hate. And I want to speak on this, and we were just talking about this before the show. You know, people talk about how beautiful our relationship is and the continuity of us, but you could flip that on the other side. When we're fighting, if you see us loving and you admire that, you should see us fighting. And
it's gotta be equal opposite.
Equal opposite, man. Sometimes we debate and argue for hours, like literally, sometimes days. It continues, and it's because we feel so passionately about one another. But we're fighting. We're separately fighting these battles of life and everything. I deal with my issues with being stigmatized and with and being you know, just thought of as the worst. And I can wrap it out like this. People all think I'm a demon. I can sit here and tell you I'm an angel. But, you know, that's all on how I feel. And you know me personally, so I value her opinion the most. So, you know, I have to hold space on the things that she's going with, dealing with grief and dealing with things that I've thought I conquered, but are reflections of myself. And I have to revisit those places. But I also wanted to put this out there. There's some relationships that's worth, once again, I'm going to reiterate what I said, are worth rebuilding. But if you know that you took certain blocks out of these walls that are you as the relationship, just know it's going to fall, because a house divided upon itself will fall. So, but you can lie to yourself, you know, you can lie to your partner. You know when it's over, and it's on you or that person to separate. Because if you're a man, I'm going to speak to my kings. And there's kings that make mistakes. You know, you tilt your crown a little bit, and you might go outside of your relationship. But even a phone call, a text might destroy what you already have, because, you know what I'm saying, the woman feels you. Right. You sleep next to her. This is your wife. This is your girlfriend. This is not, why play games? So if you know you're doing that, don't expect realness, or don't even expect the queen, even if she is, because she's not obligated to give you that, because you're not reciprocating anything. If you want the men, which I feel like is a power, you know, a surge on either side, and I'm not saying that the men should take back power. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's about meeting in the middle and balance, and saying, look, you're woman enough to let me be in touch with my feminine side. I'm man enough to let you be in touch with your male side, which, you know, to be strong, because us as men didn't always conduct ourselves as kings. I am included in that. I have a bad history, but that does not dictate who I am right now. I had somebody just recently I hadn't seen in like 20 years, and these are the things I have to laugh at. And the first thing she says, "Hey, how you doing?" And she said, "You still alive?" Am I still alive? Well, you know what? God bless you. It was nice to see you too. I'm sorry you feel that way. And you haven't spoken to me in 20 years. Right. So her rebuttal to that was, well, I remember how you used to be. 20 years ago, that is. Okay, Are you the same person you were a week ago? Or did you have any kind of situations that might have changed your mindset? So think about 20 years. So I can just leave those people in peace as like I found them.
Right.
But it's all about going back to the initial thing, what we're trying to shed light on, communication. Just come and be open and be vulnerable and trust your woman to be that, because if she's a queen, she will be vulnerable for you.
Right.
And she will allow you to be vulnerable, and and then continuity happens, then spontaneous combustion, and kings and queens, what I'm saying, and that's what we strive for. That's really, that's our purpose.
Yeah, divine masculine, divine feminine, stepping up, rising from that wounded space where you're really letting your ego run you. You know what I mean? Where you're taking that feeling, that fear, that unhealed trauma within your own heart, and you're projecting that onto another person to manipulate them or control them into loving you, or to, how often do we even see that?
Yeah.
And so it's just like, be willing to just be who you are and be real with yourself. Be honest about what you've been through, where you've been,
right.
how you feel. Don't be ashamed, because that person that claims to love you, they should love all parts of you, the good, the bad, the ugly. You know what I mean? And if they can't accept that, it's not meant to be.
It's not. And love and light. Appreciate y'all. Yep. Communication is paramount. Your relationship is worth it, either with your kids, either with your spouse, with your family. Fight for it, but at the same time, know when to break those chains.
Exactly. Know your worth. Know your worth. Bottom line.